Welcome to the Maker's Image podcast produced by Crafted Network. My name is Koby Dickenson, and in this episode, I am joined by Justin Jones. Justin is a multimedia specialist and currently serves at Antioch Church in Waco, Texas. He has an incredible story that you'll hear today of how God directed him into the unknown and how he took a leap of faith, knowing that God's plan was best. You'll also learn a little bit about their team there at Antioch, how they work together, and how they point each other to Jesus. Here is episode 2 of The Maker's Image. Justin Jones, thank you so much for being here today, man, and for being on the podcast.
Yes, sir. I'm so glad to be on. So glad you reached out.
Excited about what we're going to talk about today. So before we jump in, why don't you take a second and just tell everybody about you, about what you do, and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm Justin. I am 23 years old, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia, but I now live in Waco, Texas. So it's July, and it's hot right now. But yeah, I moved to Waco about a year ago, last June, to be on staff at a church as a multimedia specialist. And so graduated from college. I was a digital media major from Southeastern University. And so now I am on full-time staff at a church out here in Texas doing media work, doing creative stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. We'll talk about this a little bit more about your story, but I love that you took a step of faith and just jumped into what God had for you next, and really, walking on faith in so much. But we'll talk a little bit about that more. But what has it been like with that transition to Texas? I want you to share a little bit about what that was like, and then we'll dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, it was super interesting. A little bit more about myself. My whole family is back in Georgia, and so I'm a pastor's kid, and so grew up in small, super family oriented church, and so that was really all I knew when it came to a ministry context and a church context, and so moving halfway across the country, being away from family was super hard, and I was even all the way up through college. I went to Bible college, but it was in Georgia, so I stayed at home. So this was my first time moving, and at that point moving to a whole new state that I'd never even been to before. So it definitely was a transition. It was super hard at first because I had no friends. I had no community out here. I didn't know anyone when I was making the transition, making the move. It was just kind of all this huge step of faith. But I mean, being here a year now, the Lord has just been so faithful and just bringing the right people, the right resources, the right community. And so I feel like I've moved out here and I've really found family. But it hasn't been easy.
No joke. And you were firmly planted where you were before you went to Waco. I remember when we were talking about that, you were doing all kinds of different creative things in the church you were in that you were talking about. I remember when you told me that you were coming to Texas. I'm a Texas boy. I'm proud of the Lone Star State, man.
Yes.
When I cross the state line, I always take my hat off and put it over my heart, and I'm not joking. I do that. Whenever you first told me that, I was just excited. I was like, man, this is cool that a guy would, want to come. I'm proud of Buc-ee's and everything else, but on top of that, I was just like, man, Justin, you're younger than me, and so I was thinking about man, when I was younger, would I have left the state that I love so much and left my family behind and walk on faith? And I love that you can look at that and say, yes, I did. I think that's just so cool, man, because I think that is such a firm picture of chasing the calling that God's given you, and that's just incredible, man. I commend you for that in so many ways. I think that's such a cool thing, and it was an encouragement to me when we were standing there together in Atlanta when we met and you told me that. and it's still an encouragement to me today, man. So what
Yeah.
has that been like in your new role? Like, you talked about moving, but
Mhm.
like you said, you had never stepped foot in Waco,
Yeah.
Texas, correct?
Yeah. Correct. I never stepped foot in Waco, Texas. Knew very little about the church that I was coming to be a part of. And it's so funny. I guess I just assumed like just being a church boy growing up in the Bible Belt, that like just coming to a new church would not come without with any hardships,
Mm-hmm.
difficulties, or any kind of like culture shock. And it's
Sure.
so funny, like the moment I came to Waco, like one coming from a big city like Atlanta, like Waco in itself was a culture shock just
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot smaller. There's not as many people. It's not as industrialized, and things are a lot slower. And everyone pretty much like knows each other because it is like smaller. And so like I moved here and I was like, man, like yeah, like, I'll make friends like super quick. And even when I came out here and moved and got plugged in at Antioch and just came to be part of the church, like that was one of the first things I noticed was just how tight knit like
Mm-hmm.
so many of the like people were because they either like grew up in Waco or have just been a part of the church for such a long time. And after being in Waco for a year, like I just learned really quickly that it doesn't take long to grow really deep relationships here. And so when I got here, I was like kind of intimidated by that a
Yeah.
little bit. And then after being here, starting to plant roots and really understand in my mind that, okay, like God, like you have me here and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
It actually was like a breath of fresh air to be able to plant roots and go deep with people and not feel like, oh, I'm only here for like a small amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, like I'm here, like my roots are planted. But it definitely took me a second to get there and like realize that and understand that.
Yeah.
Um, but once I did, I feel like things kind of transitioned and got easier for me out here. So
Sure. Yeah, and why don't you share a little bit of that backstory? I know you really felt like your heart was drawn to Texas, and then
yeah,
I don't want to take any of that story away from you. I want you to share that because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
incredible how the Lord made those moves.
Yeah. Oh, dude, man, I absolutely love sharing this story because it's just 100% completely the Lord. Like I couldn't have done any of this. But backstory. So January of 2023, I was a part of still a part of the church that I like went through Bible college at. I was an intern there at the time, and so had been there 4 years at this point. And like you were saying, I got really involved. Really was like got to do like a lot of really amazing and kind of like work on help on some bigger projects and stuff. And so was really getting like ingrained into the team there. Really was like learning the culture. And to me at that time, I was just like, okay, like I'm about to graduate college. Like we had conversations about me like coming on full time. So it's like in my mind at that point, I was just like very much so like, okay, like I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna be on staff, and it's gonna be great. And literally, during like in that season, we were on a 21-day fast at the church, and I was praying to the Lord, and I'm like, okay, God, like I'm about to graduate in May, coming up on this like new season. I like feel the call to ministry on my life, and I have for some time now, and I'm like now like doing communications work and doing media work, and I feel like that could be a part of it, and it seems like there's this open door here, so like like just let me know if you're going to open it or
Yeah.
but I remember specifically praying like God, like whatever you want to do, like your will be done. So
Mm.
like whether that's here or not, like I'm open to it. And I clearly felt like the Lord was like, Justin, like just live these next few months with like open hands. And I was like, okay. And so I'm like going through and I start having conversations at the church, like with like my like, supervisors and bosses and stuff about potentially like coming on like full time. And we're like having these conversations and we're talking about it. And then of course, like in my like quiet time and in my secret time, like I'm like with the Lord praying through these things. And then like it went from Justin like have open hands to like Justin, I haven't like you're not
Mm.
gonna stay here, like, don't get comfortable. And that was really scary for me because I'm like, okay, So then what am I supposed to do? Like, God, like I've been here like 4 years,
Yeah.
planted like roots here, made amazing lifelong friends here. My family is right down the road. Like this seems to be it. And so when he was like, don't get comfortable, I'm like, okay, like, so do I just need to start looking? So out of panic, like I just started looking for jobs. I
Yeah.
just went to creativechurch.com and just started looking at job postings and like because I was like started freaking out because I'm like, man, like I graduate in 3 months, like what am I gonna do? And so like that next month honestly was pretty stressful, filled with a lot of anxiety because I was just and I also wasn't like really telling anyone because I'm like,
Hmm.
well, if I don't know where I'm going, then I don't want to be like, put my like 2 weeks in and all that stuff because I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so I was very like not secretive about it, but I like just kept it really close to my heart. And I was like, okay, God, like I don't want anyone to be able to like to sway this decision or allow any other influences to kind of come in it and for me to like not hear you directly because like I'm listening to other people.
Mm.
And so I kept it very like close to my heart. And so I'm doing that. And then at the end of January, we go on this retreat that we would go on every year at the end of the fast for the college. And so we went on this retreat, and the last session of the last day, one of our like academic like advisors and like student life like supervisors like goes up there and she's like giving a word, and at the end she talks about how she just feels like there are things that we need to like lay down, and she like was like, I want you like to write on a piece of paper and lay it down at the altar.
Mm.
And so at that time I knew that it was I've been trying to find a job. And so I was like, okay, God, like I'm laying this down, like it's not helping me at all. It's just stretching me out and just making me anxious. So I'm gonna lay this down and I'm gonna trust that you're a God and that I like know your voice and can follow your direction. And so I'm laying this down, believing that you're gonna open the right door
Mm.
and you're gonna close the wrong doors. And so that was the end of January. Literally about a month later, February 22nd of 2023. February 22nd, 2023, I'm at the church. We're getting ready for like a youth night. It's like one of our bigger invite nights. We're getting stuff ready. I'm on Instagram, and literally I like go on there and I see this DM from this like random guy that I don't know. And so but I like click on it and he's like just I'm curious, and he's, hey bro, like my name is like Fadi, and I've been like seeing some of the work that you've been doing out there in Georgia, and I'm like the content manager at Antioch Community Church in Waco, and we really love the work that you've been doing. And if you're like interested, like we feel like he literally was like, I don't know how I found your account, but I just really feel like you could possibly be a good fit for the job. So
Yeah.
here's the application. Have a great day. And I'm just like, what? And it was just so random because literally like not even a month after I had gone to the Lord and said, "Hey, like I'm laying this at your feet," a job literally comes and like falls in my lap. And it was so crazy because that doesn't happen. That's not normal. Like people normally don't come into
Hmm.
DMs on Instagram and cold call you for a job.
Never. Never.
And two other little like backstories, which really tie everything together. During the fast, when I was praying and seeking the Lord, I said, God, like if there was anywhere that you would have me to go, where would you have me go?
Mm.
And I clearly felt the Lord say Texas. And so that was just kind of like okay, I'm gonna put that in my pocket. I don't know what to do about that, but I'll just hold on to that. And then um, literally the 2 nights before I got reached out to by Antioch, I was having a conversation with my parents, and they were asking me like, Justin, what are you doing? Like, graduation's now 2 months away. Like, what are you doing? How are things going?
Hmm.
And it was so funny because when I told the Lord that I was gonna lay this down, like He was very clear, Justin, don't apply for anything,
Mm.
don't look for a job, don't apply for a job, don't reach out to anyone. Like He's like, if this is like the door that like I have, it's gonna be because I opened it. And
Mm.
I was like, okay, God, that's really tough, but okay. So that whole month after I like laid it down at the altar and had that conversation with God, like it was very clear, like do not look for a job, don't apply. And so my parents are like, hey, like what are you doing? And I'm like, well, the Lord told me not to do anything.
Mm.
Um, which was like, I mean, and my parents are warriors in the faith and
Yeah.
pastor to church for 20 years and taught me like to hear God's voice. But even for them, like that was like a hard conversation of hearing your son be like, "Oh yeah, I know I'm graduating in 2 months, but God told me to not do anything."
Sure,
Um,
sure.
that was like a hard conversation. But at the end, I was like, "Yo, like I just really feel like the Lord is like, wait." And I don't want to move prematurely on this and like
Mhm.
settle for something less than what the Lord has for me. And so they were like, okay. So then 2 days later to get a DM about a job at a church in Texas
Oh my goodness.
um, was absolutely insane. And our whole family was just honestly like in awe of just the wonder and just the power of God in that moment, because it's like that was a huge faith moment for all of us. And so like I just I mean at that point like I just really felt peace about it.
Yeah.
So applied for the job. The process took maybe about a month, but like at the end of March of 2023, they offered me the job. April 28th, I graduated college, and then June 3rd, I moved to Waco, Texas. Me and
That's
my dad
awesome.
we hopped in our car and drove 13 hours to Waco, and I've been here, like for a year now, and
Yeah.
it's been awesome.
Man, that's so cool. When you told me that story, Justin, we were standing in line at a conference together,
Yeah,
waiting for the doors to open, and we had a wonderful night at the conference there. We had great encouraging time there and great worship, all these things. And that night, whenever I got back to my hotel room, I called my wife, and your story was the first thing I told her about the night. Because I was just like,
man.
man, because it impacted me, man. Like you were
Mhm.
talking about the faith moment that it was for your family, and I think
Yeah,
when we walk through life surrounded by people that walk in faith and have those faith moments, and then we share those testimonies of faith, that was a faith moment for me that night to get
yeah,
to hear that and immediately
yeah,
feel encouraged and think, okay, where can I walk in faith now?
yeah,
And so I hope that somebody listening to this right now heard that and was encouraged by it the way I was,
yeah.
because I'm telling you, man,
Mhm.
I was in awe and thanking the Lord for you and for your walk that
Wow.
night. So let's take a quick break and then we'll dig in more on your role there at Antioch.
Are you struggling to elevate your church's brand in your local community? Nifty 50 Solutions is your partner in marketing your ministry. From dynamic websites to marketing strategies to obtaining the Google grant, Nifty 50 Solutions is your partner. With over a decade of experience in church and nonprofit marketing, Nifty 50 Solutions can help elevate your church or nonprofit to new heights. Visit nifty50solutions.com and sign up for a free consultation.
All right, so before we jump back into your story, Justin, to talk more about your role at Antioch, I want to take a second to play a game with you real quick, a rapid fire game. This game is called 2 for 1. So I give you 2 words. You only can give me one back, okay?
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So first one that comes up in your mind, that's the word you can blurt out. All right. And
Okay.
I can edit this, but I'm not going to. So if you say something that you no, just joking,
That
just joking. All
that
right.
that doesn't scare me at all.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Good. All right, here we go. Two for
Okay.
one. 10 of them coming at you, okay? Two for
10.
one.
Okay. Okay.
First one, bucket list.
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay. All right. Ice cream.
Pizza.
You're doing great so far, man.
Oh, let's
All
go.
right. Sports car.
Maserati.
Good one. Board game.
Monopoly.
Nice. TikTok.
Influencer.
Junk food.
Sour Patch Kids. I know that was food, but that's
That's
my
one
favorite
word. We'll give that. Yeah,
one
those
word.
all run together. All right. Dad jokes.
Really bad.
They really. Coffee shop
For keeps.
for keeps.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's called for keeps, and
Okay.
it's really really good.
Okay. All right. I'll have to put that in the back pocket. All right. Binge watch.
Netflix.
Nice. Remote work.
Oh, favorite.
Favorite? Yes. All right. Well, good. You passed. You did it. That was 2 for 1. Good job, man. My favorite
Let's
two answers
go.
were pizza. That was great.
Yes,
That was great.
I sometimes I get on a pizza train and I just can't
Yeah.
get off. So
I know what you're probably gonna eat for supper tonight.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for playing. That was fun.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to your story now. You were talking about how much of a faith walk that it was for you to plant yourself there in Waco. How much of a blessing it's been to connect with the people on your team, in your church there at Antioch. So, why don't you give us a little bit of insight there as to what it's been like working with the team there at Antioch, what the team chemistry's been like, and a little bit more about kind of what your role is there and how it fits alongside your team.
Yeah, so it's really great. There's six of us. So I
Mm-hmm.
came on as content creator. So there were three of us. So three content creators, one graphic designer, and then like we had a content manager who was like my direct oversight. That was the guy who reached out to me. So he kind of was like the direct supervisor for all the content creators. And so we had like a content team, which was like the four of us. Then we had a graphic designer, a project manager, and then our comms director. So for me, as I just continued to move throughout my role, my main media of choice is photography. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like trained as a photographer. That's like probably the one that I like have the most experience in, love the most. And so started doing like photography on Sundays, and then it led on to me moving into the social media manager role. So I'm now the social media manager. So I manage Antioch Waco, and then Jimmy Seibert, who is our senior pastor, manage his platforms for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And so
Okay.
I do that for Antioch Waco, which is our church, and then Jimmy, our senior pastor. And then I also help do some social media work for some of our other ministries. So like do some stuff for our worship team, some stuff for our college ministry, and things like that.
Okay.
So as far as like within like the team structure, I am still creating a lot of the content, but also I will pull in like our graphic designer if we have like a post that needs to go out that's more like graphic heavy than necessarily video or photo heavy, and just kind of vice versa for
Yeah.
like our video editors and things like that. And so I'm in a really cool spot where I get to just kind of like just manage and just do like general upkeep of everything. So like I do a lot of engagement, so like
Mm-hmm.
DMs, comments, responses, things like that. But then I also have like the really fun task and job of like our worship team just released a new album, and so like I got to like work on the social calendar like with the team, and then actually like structuring out content, brainstorming content, and then actually like seeing content get made and like come like to the finish line has been like a really cool process. So I love that my role kind of has a lot of bits and pieces. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really do get to do a little bit of everything.
Well, that's awesome, man. It's really neat that that you have such a great team atmosphere there. Such
Yeah.
a opportunity of getting to do so many different things there in your role. Whenever y'all do work with each other, it sounds like you're having a blast jumping in and doing content
Yeah.
creation, doing scheduling, doing copyright, all these different things. Um, but as you work with each other in each of those different directions and areas, what are some ways that you work together in pointing each other to Christ and keeping yourself grounded to not only the creative work that you're doing, but the purpose of that work?
That's such a great question. That is definitely, I feel like for a church creative specifically, sometimes such a hard thing to balance
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, because like in so many other ministry roles, it is very clear and apparent like okay, like 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 this is the spiritual aspect of what I'm doing, like whether you're worship leading, discipling, pastoring, like there's just very like apparent ministerial, just like God related tasks and things that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. And for church creatives, I feel like it can become very easy to feel like the work that we're doing is not kingdom related, not kingdom minded, and not ministry, because we could easily take what we're doing and do it in a secular context, and it wouldn't really feel like a whole lot different. Except what I've realized being in this role and being a part of this team is that, especially for us as a communications team, our role is more than just making cool content. Our job is more um, than just taking photos, for a church service so we can post on Instagram later. What I've come to understand is that our role as a team is to convey what the Lord is doing in our house and also what he's doing through the people in our house. And so
That's
I
good.
feel like coming into that space honestly keeps the mission for us like kind of like on the forefront. And actually like in like down here, like I'm in the office right now and we have on the wall, like we have our mission statement, and our mission statement is that we live to create in a way that expresses the heart of God and inspires the saints. And like that really is like something that I feel like I've adopted since I've like gotten here is okay, like your end goal is not, man, that's a really awesome graphic, or that's a really awesome video, or man, like look at the metrics and say, man, that did really well, had a lot of engagement. Like those things are great. But like I love it even more when someone, is like, man, like I saw this video that made me come to church on a Sunday and now like I am sold out for the Lord. Like that's so like that has a much greater reward in our eyes and also in the Lord's eyes than how well, or how trendy or how amazing a piece of content that we make is.
For
All,
sure.
all those things are great, but like the real reward is seeing people saved and set free and sold out for Jesus.
Amen.
And it is so cool to be a part of a church and a ministry that understands that, and a part of a team that understands that too. We have rhythms in place constantly of how do we keep Jesus in the forefront of what we're doing. We have team prayer times on Monday morning. And so like at the start of our week before we do anything, we come in, we pray, we have a Devo time as a team. And that really sets us up for success for the week.
Sure.
And I really love that we get chances to come together, to encourage one another, prophesy over one another, and just speak into one another's lives and just say, hey, like, I just see the Lord is doing this or the Lord is speaking this over your life. And there's just such we're just such a family, and so it's just so easy for us to be able to yes, do work and do amazing things and come in and get the job done, but also like speak into each other's lives and comfort one another and be there for one another. And when someone's having a hard day, we'll take a lap or go out to lunch. Like there's just this really cool like gospel centered community that I have the privilege to be a part of, and so it's just really cool.
I love that y'all start your week off with prayer as a team, focusing your hearts together, focusing your minds together, encouraging each other, just looking into each other's lives and calling out what God has called them to do.
Yeah.
I love that y'all do that as a team, because if you don't, then nobody else is in the trenches with you. Nobody else is in those meetings with you, seeing those things happen. And if you can, lock arms together, pray for each other, and point each other to God, then that is going to point you in the right direction 100% of the time. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you're on a team like that. That's incredible. I love the work that you're doing there at Antioch. I love the content that you're putting on Instagram. It's encouraging to me. I've seen it encourage others online. Why don't you share some ways that people can connect with you and see some of the work that y'all are doing and what you're doing individually?
Well, for us out here at Antioch, we're on Instagram and on Facebook at Antioch Waco, also on YouTube. And so you can see just like a lot of the projects that I've gotten to work on, a lot of the work that I've done. And then me personally, you can follow me on Instagram at Justin Lewis Jones, and the Lewis is Louis. And yeah, I just Kobe, just what you were talking about recently, just felt the Lord has just been prompting me like lately to kind of go out and just started making creative,
Yeah.
encouraging content. Just super similar to you and the podcast of just wanting to, just equip and encourage, just those in creative ministry to keep going. Like, I think the Lord really has lately been reminding me that this call that it is a call, that my like creativity my creativity and my artistry, it's more than
Yeah.
just a skill, but it's a call. It's something that that I was created for. That's one thing that the Lord is calling me
Yeah.
to do, is to equip and disciple creatives in the church and outside of the church to find their creative purpose, and also how to do it well and how to do it pleasing to the Lord.
Yeah.
So
Well, man,
yeah.
I think that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're a part of this family now, the Crafted Group, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward to hopefully us doing some things in the future of you getting to use your gifts
Yes.
to do exactly that, to equip the body, to encourage followers of Christ, and specifically those serving in the creative realms of the church and ministry work outside the church, whatever it might be. So I'll put all those handles that you just mentioned in the show notes, and so that people can find you there. And I'm encouraged by you today, Justin. Thank you for that word. Thank you for your time today and for sharing all of this. It's been very, very encouraging, and I know it's going to be for so many. So thank you.
Wow. Yeah, Koby, thank you so much just for having me on. It's just like this is a really special thing that you're doing, and I was just so glad when you reached out. The Lord can use, anyone's story to reach people, and so I'm glad that, that my story can have an opportunity to do that. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the show today. I hope you leave this episode feeling encouraged and inspired. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the show now and turn on notifications so you don't miss new episodes. To find our other resources or to learn more about Crafted Network, visit craftednetwork.org.